Hey everybody, welcome back to another iiRcade Game Days. I'm your host, Michael, executive producer and director here at iiRcade. So, welcome to the chat. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Back for 2 weeks in a row. It's been crazy, right? That never happens anymore. But yeah, welcome back to the chat. Hope you all have started your weekend. Maybe if you have a weekend, I hope you have a weekend. Having a good time with Wizard of Walls, of course, which released this morning. So we've put some feelers out there earlier on in the week, but beyond that, I hope you guys actually have a chance to get to try it yourself today. Have some fun with it if you haven't already too on other platforms. But this game is totally meant for an arcade because it's based off of a classic arcade game, right? So we can go over that a little bit later on as well. Of course, we're going to show off some gameplay, talk about some things, talk about some questions that I see that you guys have already had about the game throughout the week, which is great. So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about our system update that's upcoming very soon that we've been testing out to ad nauseum for the past couple of days here. So it's great. Yeah, we do actually test our system updates. How crazy is that, right? Go figure. Let's see here. What's going on in the chat here? What can I go over? We'll do some Q&A as well later on too. I just want to see if there's any immediate questions that I can get to. But no worries. We can also jump right into the game at hand, right? No. Okay, awesome. Easy enough. Easy for me, right? So let's get right to it then, right? So let's talk about Wizard of Walls, right? So Wizard of Walls, of course, if you haven't never played the classic arcade title Wizard of War, very, very similar game. This is a more updated version of that game, essentially, right? So very comparable, of course, mechanic-wise. But, of course, we've got new things like global leaderboards and stuff going on here, right? So Wizard of Walls, let me pull up. I've got some video. So actually, in case you haven't seen it, let's play the trailer really quick for everybody who is just tuning in and who has not seen this game yet. So we'll play the trailer from last week. All right. So without further ado, show off some Wizard of Walls. All right, there you go. So there's our trailer for Wizard of Walls. I'll throw up some gameplay here, some actual gameplay recorded by our QA. There we go. All right, I hope you can hear me over that too. Let me know if it's too loud. I can never know sometimes with the videos if they're too loud or not, if you can hear me over it. I'm trying to have a different mic setup today too, right? So interestingly enough, I always experiment on the show. But yes, this is Wizard of Walls, as you can see right next to me. So Wizard of Walls is what it is, right? So during the gameplay, you're going to go through multiple mazes, and throughout the mazes, so it does have solo and co-op mode as well as a versus mode, technically speaking, as well too, right? So, yeah, so you're going to go through the mazes. You're going to expand. There's going to be different types of mazes later on in the game too, and you'll go through, shoot different creatures along the way, trying to just survive the entire time until you hit the warlocks at the end of each level, and then beyond that too, of course, you will take on the wizard as well. So Wizard of Walls, right? There you go. I do have some shout out to the developer too, Stefan or Steven if he's watching, right? It's weird when you communicate through emails with somebody all the time and you actually don't, technically speaking, know if their name is pronounced differently. So I just thought about that. So good times. But shout out to the developer. He's done an amazing job on this game too. Very small group of people did this game, by the way. So shout out to all of them in contribution. There we go. And let's go for some questions that actually they've noticed over time on Steam as well as our platform now that people have had. So I'll get to those first, and then I'll let you guys throw your questions in the chat. We'll talk more about the game and general game stuff, right? So let's see. First and foremost, first question they asked was, can you hit the other player in two-player game. Yeah, so you actually can, right? So two-player co-op does have co-op mode as well as versus, right? So there's a co-op box that you can tick or untick, right? So depending on if that is checked or unchecked, if it's checked, then you will work together in cooperative mode. If you have it unchecked, you will be able to shoot and destroy each other in this game. Yeah, so you can take it on that way. All right. Let's see. Are the dungeons different in single player versus two player? Not really. The game has 150 dungeons in total, growing sizes, right? So they go from 8x5 all the way up to 18x10, so they do get a lot more massive over time, right? So, yeah, 100 different setups, 150 dungeons, crazy, right? It's a ton of stuff, ton of content. How to survive the spider dungeon. So yeah, so the spider dungeon, in case it'll come up in this video here as well too, but you'll see the yellow levels specifically. Those will be the spider dungeons. So people are often asking, I guess, how to survive the spider dungeons because they can be difficult. We tested this game for a while. It's totally proven to be true. So how do you survive the spider dungeon, right? You focus on the eggs. So you can actually destroy the eggs and get them. You can avoid them to when they explode and spawn new spiders, right? So you can actually shoot them before they start spawning new stuff, right? So you just got to shoot them in time. So that's part of the game, right? Is getting to those key points, key items before time runs out, essentially, right? And then you get overrun. How it goes. So that is for the spider level specifically. More questions still brought up all the time too. Will the game have online multiplayer, right? So this is the big one that folks ask us too, because we didn't really talk about this last week. We just showed off the trailer, right? So currently there's no plans for online multiplayer on our system yet. So who knows, right? Time may tell on that one too. That's totally up to the developer at this point, if they want to add it or not. So on it. So I'll leave it at that. However, we'll see. It's not announced, so don't plan on any online multiplayer too that you might see on other platforms. They use other servers that are not our own servers, right? So it is very different on our platform compared to others. As well as, of course, things like performance always come into play when you're adding multiple players at the same time, so things like that. Beyond that, we've also got, will the game get a speech update? So yeah, we've seen this a lot in our chat and in other platforms as well too. So the classic game that this is originally based off of, this is a love letter to that game, right? So Wizard of Walls does not currently have a wizard voiceover, right? That's sort of part of the more classic style game too. There's no plans on adding that. However, who knows, right? Who knows what the future holds? Again, totally up to the developer. It's their game, so we kind of let it just run rampant on top of it, right? So there you go. So those are the most common questions that we can ask about this game that they've been asked, at least that they've handed over to us. So, and that seems to be with you guys too, the questions that you'll want to ask, right? So online especially, as well as the voiceover, right? Because the voice was more of a part of classic arcade game, right? So you'd kind of want that a little bit more on our system versus others necessarily. However, it's just not planned currently. Yep. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. As a developer, you do want to move on to other projects as well too. You sort of spend your time on one game and then eventually you do want to move on to the next thing because we all like to create new things, get bigger and better as time goes on. So there's nothing wrong with that either. Let's see here. What questions have I missed? I'm sure I've missed some questions in my chats. Online 4-player co-op. Yeah, so we got to that already too. Scrolling through. That's the big one. That is the big one. But can you shoot your buddies in co-op? Yeah, so again, we just went over that. Check off the co-op mode when you're in co-op. You can check out the little box that says co-op. If you untick that box, you will be able to kill each other. Let's see here. Other questions that I might have missed or any new questions. If you've got them, throw them in the chat now. We're here to talk Wizard of Walls today. Sitting at work? Yeah, there we go. All right. Actually, not a lot of questions, right? I think those questions do like cover the majority of what people will ask typically, right? So beyond that, it's just a great game. Yeah, we're excited to have it on the system. We'll talk about some other games soon. All right. And I know my video is stopped. Here we go. There we go. I need to loop. There's no looping for StreamYard for some reason. I wish it looped the videos. Yep, I've already answered your questions. Great. See, the developer knows what's up. That's why they send me all these questions. They're like, here's the answers. I'm like, yeah, pretty much new. So it's great. But yeah, if you haven't, check it out. It is on the store right now for $9.99. And yes, that is the correct price. So I know some of you on our PR emails earlier this week had it at $10.99. The game actually is correctly listed at $9.99 on the iiRcade right now. So pick it up on the store today. It's right there on the top of the store. It'll be there for a little while, especially as it rotates through. And you can see it on the attract mode as well, running on the machine. But yeah, check out Wizard of Walls today. We're really excited for this one too. It's taking a little bit to get here, we know, but it's cool. Good things come to those who wait, right? Let's see. I saw Best Buy has, let me take this question. So Biggie D saying, I saw Best Buy has iiRcade Retromania back in stock. Are we going to get gold there? Currently, what you see is what you get for Best Buy as well as our own stock, right? So we have, as we said over the holidays, get them while they're hot because we don't know when we will have these things back in stock on the shelves. So there you go. That's my answer to that. Currently, there is only Retromania at Best Buy. Yeah. So if you go to bestbuy.com, we are there with Retromania. And they do tend to have their own deals outside of our own site. So keep that in mind if you are looking for deals on those cabs. What they are, we have a whole other schedule for that. There's a lot. I can't keep track of all the things that go on all the time. Got to keep track of all these games, like Wizard of Walls. Let's see. Zero Redux. We already talked about this question right here about the wizard speech. So yeah. Trust me, the developers know what you guys want as well too. It doesn't always mean that you're going to get what you want. However, it doesn't mean that they don't hear you, that they're not taking into consideration. Again, developers, you spend so long on a project and then eventually you do want to move on. Of course, it burns you out a little bit. You don't want people burned out. That doesn't mean they might not revisit it later on too. But again, no promises. However, things like online co-op for 4-player or like speech, the wizard speech, who knows, right? Let's see here. But yes, not currently planned for the system. There you go. So strike that right now. Let's see. Does the game have an ending? This is actually a really good question, Brooklyn. So Brooklyn Menace is asking, does Wizard of Walls have an ending? So there are 150 dungeons, and I believe that there is an ending, that there is a final wizard battle. So it does cycle through. This is actually a great question that I wish I was better prepared for, actually, that is kind of throwing me off now. I do want to say that it does have a Stark ending, but at the same time, I do want to say it's repeatable. So we'll see. I can get back to you on that one, actually, and give you an official answer on that one. So it does go usually a couple levels of, there's a level of gameplay and then a warlock, and eventually you get to a wizard battle. I'm going to call it a wizard battle, wizard, and then it kind of cycles through after that, right? So that's typically, that's the gameplay loop of Wizard of Walls. Is there an actual ending? I'll get back to you on that. It's actually a really good question that I should know the answer to. I don't know why it's not hitting me. Local 4-player co-op. Probably not. Probably what you see right now is what you're kind of getting for this game. That's why it's a little bit lower price compared to other platforms, a little bit off. But beyond that, yeah, I'm making no promises. Currently, out the box, this is what you're getting. So, as advertised. You can't always get what you want. Yeah, it's going to be my new slogan, right? You can't always get what you want. Just start singing songs night and day. Let's see here. Okay. Other questions I can get to. So, yeah, so good little segue, actually. We'll get into our next topic a little bit here, too. Ritual Dell is asking a question. What is the status of light gun support? So, good and bad news, right? It's not here yet. Of course, that's the bad news, right? However, it's very close. Which is great. So I've said that for a little bit. So we are in the process of heavily testing the system update right now, which is working on a couple of different features, right? A couple of different things, as well as especially a lot of back-end things, especially for going from gold and standard editions, because we've only really had one update since then. And some of you have not been able to get that on your original standard editions because of the way that the update was working at the time. It was very there was a lot going on at the time, right? With the golds hitting people's homes and things like that too. So this one we've taken a little bit more time on, especially. So it's taken a little bit to get out there. However, with the addition of light guns too, that's even more, right? Because this is driver support that we have to sort of develop ourselves. And currently we've only announced Sinden light guns specifically that we're launching this with for light gun technology, as well as Operation Wolf. That is the only game that's been promised so far is Operation Wolf. Will come with light guns. But however, if you don't have a light gun or you have a standard edition unit and you can't connect a light gun currently, right, because there's no Bluetooth light guns, it will work with joystick and buttons as well too. And we've tested that heavily as well too here in the office, which is great. It does work. It's difficult for sure, but it does work. So, and it is an interesting way to play the game. I got to say, playing a light gun game with a joystick and buttons it's not bad. It's not bad. It's definitely different. Clearly it's different. However, it kind of plays interestingly good to me. But bias on me a little bit too. But yeah, so we are currently working on the system update and light guns and things like that too. So we've got things still coming down the line this year, right? So light guns, accessories for GRS, as well as 4-player online, right? So they're not all going to be in this update. We'll get to that a little bit more probably next week, I would say, in what's actually going into this update, as it's currently under heavy testing and planned to be released very, very shortly. But yeah, so you're looking at a 9.011.000 is what you're looking at for your next update. So keep an eye out for that one too. But of course, we will announce that heavily what's in that when we release it, and we'll talk about that as well too. But yes, that's the status of light guns. They're very close. They're very, very close. Hang on that. But again, the only game we've announced with light guns is Operation Wolf. So if that does not appease you, don't go out buying a light gun. Don't blame me for it. Don't at me. It's not my fault. It's your money. Spend it how you choose to. If that's just not your cup of tea with Operation Wolf, it's okay. Will there be other light gun games later on this year? Maybe. It's my favorite word. Maybe. Let's see here. Oh, questions in the chat now. Okay, here we go. Now I got my questions. Okay. when you see the word Sega, do you sing like Sega, or do you yell it like the Sega? Yeah. No, I actually do the singing. So that's a great question because I grew up with Genesis, and that's what I'm pretty much used to. I'm very much a Sega lad. I did love my Nintendo growing up too, but Sega was always the cool thing, right? Because I have an older brother, so that's what he had. So I always wanted to play his stuff. 150 levels would take a long time. Yeah, there's 150 different dungeons that you can explore in Wizard of Wall. So again, they range from 8x8 all the way up to, what is it, 8x5 all the way up to 18x10 for Wizard of Wall's dungeons. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a big dungeon. Let's see here. I can't talk about games I can't talk about, of course. I had a long show today, too. We don't have too much more to go over, too. We just want to talk about Wizard of Walls, specifically. It's fun. It's one of our, what we would call a neutro game, right? So what John loves to call neutro, at least, right? New retro. That's what we call it, that. This, along with Wizard of Walls, along with games like Galacticon's a new take on its own things, right? Donut Dodo, it's its own standalone game, of course, but it is, of course, taken from sort of kit bash from other games, right? Or games like Galaxy Champions TV that came out recently as well, too. Galaxy Champions TV is very much similar to some other games, right? Smash TV. There we go. And then we've got games like Hybroxia 2, which are also sort of love letters to classic, but they are their own very unique titles, right? So Hybroxia 2 also got an update. We should go over that. So I did post in the store early about the Hybroxia 2 update, but there are some updates, features that you guys wanted added, as well as some bug fixes, a little bit of bug fixes that you probably honestly wouldn't have noticed, but we did as well as the developer. So yes, shout out to Lily Mo Games as well too for being fantastic and fixing those super quick. So they added a attract mode for you guys. So attract mode is in, as well as, let's see here. I don't have a list for this one on hand right now too. There's 4 different things. Bug fixes, attract mode. The controls and options are now in the main menu so that people are a little bit less confused with the listing for us for twin stick and things. You can change them before gameplay now, as well as pretty much anywhere in the game. Yeah, so again, that's like the big ones. Really want a Double Dragon Gold cabinet. Will there be any more? Stay tuned. Nothing. Again, this is why we were very much pushing before the holidays, right? To tell people, get them while they're hot, because we do not know when we'll have them in stock, and that is absolutely very true. We really don't, which is really cool. Kind of exciting, actually. Do we have any? We do have gold still left in stock. I believe Dead Cells and Space Invaders sounds right to me, as well as Retromania, handful of Dragon's Lair, and there might still be standard editions left, potentially. If they would be on our website on iiRcade.com. Can I tell you if I'll be at E3 this year? And maybe Pinball Machine Cup. Think I'm going pinball right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Stay tuned on iiRcade Pinball. Never. I won't say never, but no, I'm not going to get your hopes up on a pinball right now. However, E3, maybe. I don't know. Cons are still, we talked about this a little bit last week too. Conventions this year are sort of up in the air at the moment for us. We'll see. But I'm sure that we'll make our way to at least a couple. E3, maybe. Or maybe we'll just do our own thing during E3 too, here in Chicago. Online lobbies soon. Not quite yet. They're not going to be in this next update for sure. I can tell you that too. There's a lot of things that are getting sort of backlogged a little bit due to other things that we're working on that we haven't even talked about yet. So, for good reason. For very good reason. Let's see here. Any word on the control boards? Yeah, so we're still working on these system updates in order to get that stuff in place. It's not easy to just do a one-size-fits-all a plug-and-play system, essentially, right? So especially with Bluetooth. Bluetooth is a little bit more finicky sometimes, so that's kind of what's holding that back a little bit, but it is currently being worked on presently, yes. Trying to get those controls out to you as soon as possible for both GRS, our partner GRS, and Uplay. But yes, any GRS products that you're looking at for trackballs and spinners specifically is what we're working on right now currently with them, as well as some other things. But those are the things that we've talked about at least already. Yep. So those are the ones that we're sort of guaranteeing to work on the system. Let's see here. Questions, other questions I can get to. I'm gonna do a short show today. Nothing too much else. Just want to stop in, say hi, talk about Wizard of Walls. We did clear the leaderboards, by the way. Early this morning, I believe that Stephen cleared the leaderboard. So, yes. You've already been added. How dare you? Ninja Baseball. We haven't talked about Ninja Baseball. Well, we did a little bit last week, too. Nope. Stay tuned on that one, too. It's getting worked on as well. There's a lot of things. We have a lot of things that we have to work on, right? So, it's a lot at once. So, keep that in mind. On top of always improving the system and things like that, there's a lot that goes on. Because I think we haven't done a lot in the last 2 years. You have no idea. You forget that online, the store itself wasn't even a thing. Downloading games, uninstalling games, removing your account, adding your account, nicknames, global leaderboards, all that stuff was added in the last 2 years on top of simply creating the system. So, and licensing and all that stuff. Improvements to the UI. There actually have been some since 9.11. Trust me on that one. Especially after I had to test 9.001 today. It was weird going back to the original system launch of what it looked like and what things were there and not there. And it was great to see that and then to update to the brand new one. It's funny. Yes, we test all of those updates all the way back until then. So I still got them on my drive. New hoodie. This is actually an old hoodie. So this was the... Here we go. I'll stand up. I got to go this way. This was the iiRcade Gold editions for the... Out of focus. There we go. Those who ordered for the early bird specials, right? The first 100, I believe. Yep, sounds about right. Got hoodies and then shirts after that. Got these. Yeah, no new apparel. There is still apparel on the store. It is still there. Let's see here. Other questions I can get to right now. UI updates. We talked a little bit about UI last week too. Yep. Stay tuned on that later on this year. It's gotten a little bit more postponed than we wanted to because we wanted it out last year. So, however, there's bigger fish to fry with what we're doing. But yes, that's something that's always needed to sort of be improved. So functional, especially out the gate, functionality hasn't really been a terrible thing. But as you get bigger things in the system, as you get more features in the system, especially more and more games, things like online leaderboard and stuff too. Of course, as that's been added in over the past 2 years, it's time to revisit all this stuff again too. So it's kind of nice. It's gotten a little bit delayed, honestly, because it gives us more time, not more time, but it gives us better focus of the key features on the system and what to focus on for that as far as user experience goes, more so than just UI and what to show off. So beyond things of general stuff. Yeah. Of course, like the store going on in the system we've talked about for a long time now as well, too. Yep. But again, things get delayed due to things that you don't even know about. It's great. It's always fun. Let's see. Light up power button on the original cabinet. Some of them do have them actually for the OGA's unit, the orange units, the generic iiRcade units, right? Yeah, some of them actually did ship with them. Ooh, yeah, it's been a while now. But yeah, there is a difference in the motherboards to plug that in, to plug in the light up power button actually. So no, if you do have that, there's no like kits that we can necessarily do because that is technically speaking a slight difference in that board there. So we had our like Gen 1 board, like our launch board. And then we also had a little bit later in the year, maybe 9 months later, so we did actually change up the board very slightly. So for materials and things like that too, that we found were just working a little bit better. But yeah, not that you're missing on too much without the light up power button. It does help to know the system's on. I know you can see the one behind me, especially have the light up power buttons. The golds, of course, all have the light up power buttons. It's a feature that we've had just going forward. But yeah, it is a different board to plug it in. So you'd have to have a separate way to wire it if you had one. So, thus is the cost of progress. Dead Cells is a beautiful cabinet. Yeah, Dead Cells is actually my favorite cabinet, by the way. Well, Double Dragon's close. I like Black Edition, but I like Black Edition naked. I just like a nice, sleek black cabinet kind of thing, right? So, but yeah, or design your artwork for it. But yeah, Dead Cells is great. Dead Cells is done by the actual artist for Dead Cells. That's why Dead Cells looks spot on as well too. That was a really fun cabinet to do just because the landscape that wraps around it. It's fun. Those are the things that like really highlight when people ask me for coin doors on the cabinet. If I point to a cabinet like Dead Cells, like I don't want to ruin the nice artwork on this cabinet by putting a coin door in the front. So it doesn't mean that's always going to be a thing. However, that's exactly the reason why we don't do that currently, right? So plus we're not making replicas of arcades, right? We're our own thing. Make a Donut Dodo cab. That'd be a cool one too. We've seen demand for Donut Dodo cab as well as Operation Wolf cab, things like that too. Yeah, we see all this stuff. Don't you worry. My docket list goes big and big. Guns. We're going to talk about guns. You're going to have to watch on the recap. So soon, TM. Very soon. Very soon. And when I say very soon, I do mean very soon. So it's not like very soon and it's like this summer. No. It's like soon. Let's see here. Yeah, Wizard of Oz on the gold cabs especially. Yeah, it's great. The sound by JBL is fantastic on them. It bumps. That's why. Castlevania Dead Cells would be cool. It's very true. It's very true. Let's see. Any other questions? We'll call it a short day. It's been half an hour. There's nothing else to really go over too much too. Everything's pending right now too as we stick our heads to the grinding stone and just keep plowing through. So second, we've already talked about Ninja Baseball Batman a little bit too. It's just getting worked on currently. That's it. There's no tentative release date currently, except for me. Yes, the most I can talk about Ninja Baseball Batman is that it is being worked on currently. So I'm not allowed to tell you why it's being worked on right now too, technically speaking, right? So, yes. Sometimes there's issues that arise, minor issues, and we got to fix them. Especially when it's a game. Ninja Baseball Batman, we can talk a little bit more. So there's what, 46 or something like that, right? Boards for the US ever made for that machine, right? So if you see one, it's an ultra rare machine in the US, especially. Bigger release in Japan, specifically with that RAM, right? So with that, Ninja Baseball Batman is it's another beast. It's a hard one to find just because of how rare it is sometimes too. Not making it a bad game. It's actually a great game, but it is a very difficult board to find for us to get files and things like that too. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. Are you hiring? Is the company growing? Stay tuned. Why, you want a job? Let me see here. Brenobi02 is asking, question, Do you look at game suggestions on the Facebook page and take them into consideration? Yeah, so we've talked about this before in the past too. Maybe a little new too. Yeah. So I touch on this from time to time, right? So yes, we do look at all this stuff. I see everything. You have no idea how much stuff that I see. And what I do for a living here, essentially, right? So I have a pulse on pretty much everything in the company, both inward and outward. So it's great. Yeah. So you can blame me for a lot of stuff. That's fair. You can also not blame me for a lot of stuff. That's also fair. However, yes, we do see all the suggestions and things like that too. So it's not to deter you from not suggesting. A lot of times I do see things, and I talk to developers probably a literal year or two ahead of when people actually suggest the game. So yes, we do pick up on all that stuff. It's pretty rare that we find a game that you guys post that we haven't already either reached out to the developer or had them reach out to us or figured out something, or maybe it's being worked on currently, right? That's pretty typical. Is that we've at least in some way, shape, or form been in contact with them, right? So that's very typical by the time that people post in the groups. But yeah, don't let that deter you from posting. It's totally fine. It's always good to see what games that you guys want. Again, a lot of times we've seen them and we've kind of known that beforehand, but doesn't mean we don't miss them all the time too. Bigger fish to fry. Yeah, more like barracudas. I'm going to say barracuda size, or sometimes shark size. Depends. A lot of fish to fry. When could we see new skins and graphics? Nooner's asking. Yep. So again, stay tuned on that. I have no answer for that currently for you. You might actually see a new skin soon. But maybe not in the way that you think. So that's always a fun one. Let's see. Yeah, you play around with that one. You have no idea what I'm talking about there. I guarantee it, which is awesome. So I'm excited. We do, technically speaking, have a newer skin that's definitely 100% planned. What it's for, you'll have to find out when we talk about it. Is that for gold? Is that for standard? Is that for something else? Who knows? Let's see. Other questions. I'll take like maybe 3 to 5 more questions today. Nothing else pressing going on too. Today is very much Wizard of Walls day, system update day. Well, system update, a little bit talk about day. Did I see they announced Dead Cells Castlevania DLC? I did. Did you see they only announced it so far for PlayStation, by the way? But, however, yes, I did see it. And I'm a huge Castlevania fan, by the way. Both of the games, and even the anime series on Netflix, too. Oh, man. They did such a good job on the series for Castlevania. In case you haven't watched it. Let's see here. That's about all I can talk about for Dead Cells DLC. Just saying. Can I talk Crazy Taxi Cab? I cannot. It's not a game that we've announced, so I can't talk about it. Let's see here. I like this one. Biggie D saying Operation Wolf with mounted guns that detach and a game deck that you can swap. Yeah, so we have no plans on making that. Will somebody else make that down the road? You'll have to find out. It's not a bad idea. But yes, in case you didn't know too, yes, Operation Wolf is a mounted gun game originally, right? So it doesn't mean that it plays terribly or anything like that too. It feels just fine playing with a light gun from, a couple of feet back or a couple of feet right in front. But yes, originally the game is a mounted gun. You can sort of do that kind of in a sense too. If you do want to mount a gun to the joystick, you can do that because you can play the game with the joystick. It's not going to be the same. I guarantee that, though. That would be odd. I don't suggest that. Let's see here. I just keep leading you on. Yeah, soon. Soon. Always. It's because a lot of times it's just all I'm allowed to say. We have our own NDAs and things that I can't break. I'm not allowed to. Trust me. There's always things I would love to tell you guys. Just not allowed to. Poor folks at home, sitting there in the waiting. I know. Trust me, we work night and day, tirelessly here. Let's see here. Again, I'll take like 3 more actual questions. Bring the Yule log back. No. The Yule log back. The Yule log is reserved for the holidays. Keeping it there. Maybe we'll have other things throughout the years like that, though, too, right? So maybe we'll do one for the summer that was different. Like we did change the logo and stuff this summer, right? We did like the synthwave stuff this summer. That was fun. I did all that stuff. What else did I do? Ooh. Halloween was good too. We had an awesome logo for Halloween done in-house. That was really fun. So we do some fun stuff like that still. Yeah, the spooky themes and things. We'll see. Maybe we'll do one soon. Depends. I don't have a lot of time right now to do extra stuff. So that's really the big thing. I love to do the extra fun stuff like that too, especially for holidays when I can. But we'll see. I have to devote my time to things. Let's see here. Other stuff. I'll answer my own question maybe soon. Correct, Goofyfoot. Here's actually a really good question. So Zero Redux, or I'm still going to say Zero Redo. I don't know why I want to say it like a French name, but I do, even though there's no E before the U. But Zero Redux is asking, do you ever leave those cabs on for days on end? Yes. It's called soak testing in quality assurance. So you'll do this with pretty much any console or even PCs and stuff too. You'll soak the game for days on end too. Yeah, we actually do that pretty often. I'll leave that at home all the time too. But yeah, I'll do that in my office, especially. It depends on the game. A lot of these retro arcade games especially don't really need soak testing too much, but we'll still do it from time to time just to be sure. But yeah, we've got a plethora of cabs here in the office. We've got, oh man, ballpark at least 20 hooked up currently that I can technically use in that way. Yeah, we got a real arcade in here too. It's crazy. But yeah, so we do soak testing is what that's called. Yeah, because it's always good to know. Does your machine overheat? This is things especially prior to release of the arcade originally too, that we did testing for the boards because the brand new motherboards and stuff we had to test in this way. Because you always need to know, is it gonna set something on fire? You know, that's always something you want to know, right? Is it gonna overheat potentially? It won't. That's why we have, approvals from the FCCs and things like that too, right? You want to check not only the machine, but like things like the power bricks, the motherboards, the lit marquees even too, right? Does that get too hot potentially too? And it's not even that. Does it burn out? Who knows, right? Does it cause some other electrical failure? You got to know all that stuff. So yes, absolutely, we do soak testing on things beyond just games too. We do it for other software features too. Yep. Does it soak well with scan lines on? Does it not soak well with scan lines on? Does it soak well with the volume turned up to max? Does it not? Things like that. Yep. It's a good question. That's a QA question. So luckily for you, I do lead QA too. And that's I come from a QA background for AAA. As well as level design, but yeah. We never talk about my level design experience. It's okay. Do I like 3D fighters? Absolutely. I love all games. So I'll give you my corny, cheesy answer, right? Because I am a game dev. My background is game development. I love all games for different reasons. I like different types of games. I like my first-person shooters just as much as I like my RPGs, even though I might favor RPGs more because I'm a big nerd. I like 2D games as well as 3D games, as well as virtual reality and stuff sometimes too. I like experimenting with fun things like that. Or arcade experiences, right? Very different compared to other things. But yeah, of course I like 3D fighters. What kind of question is that? Trying to get me to announce a 3D fighter? It's not going to happen. I'm not going to announce my games ahead of time. Come on. Who do you think I am? But yes, I like 3D fighters. And there's plenty of them. Let's see here. Jeremy Taylor's asking, are the new control panels with trackballs for the gold going to have any art? Or will they be plain? So I believe black, just plain matte black out the gate too. Will there be other people who do deck protectors or things like that for them? Probably. But yeah, so we're not making the external hardware like that. So that is totally up to third parties to do that. GRS, Uplay, things like that too. There's plenty of others in the community too, for the arcade community too. So yeah, I'm sure if there's enough of demand for it, somebody will do it. We are just not personally doing it ourselves because that's not something that we're actually making, right? So this is what we make. That's what we get for hardware. So we do not plan on, we don't have any external hardware beyond that announced, right? So just the capability to use it. That's why we're doing an open accessories program is what we're calling that, so that other companies can come in and say, hey, we have this cool controller that you can probably use for this game. Can we try it out? And we say, absolutely, let's try it out. So it works advantageously for us, for them, as well as for you guys actually too, because it gets us to get those kind of features on the system much, much faster than we would be doing in-house right now. I guess the only downside I would say to that is that clearly, yes, we're not releasing a machine with that. So you can't just buy a machine outright with that stuff. So it is an additional purchase. So really, that's really a downside of it, of course. But again, spend your money how you want to. If you like it enough, if that's how you want to play the game, absolutely. And controls do matter, of course, for games too. We're very well aware of that as a console multi-cade kind of thing. Yeah, so we try our best, but there's only so much you can do sometimes. So doesn't mean that we won't change in the future. Will Zhang be joining us for new? Yeah, Zhang might be on maybe next week if we have a show next week. So stay tuned. You'll see Zhang very soon in the upcoming weeks. Yes. I will bring him on because he's back home now. All right. I'll take one more question before we call it a day because that's it. That's all we got today. How would iiRcade handle DLC? It depends on the game. We actually had DLC for Retromania Wrestling, if you do recall. That's already implemented into it, which was just a free rollout to you. So we just updated the game. Yep. Remember, we do have game update features in the system that currently work. So we do utilize those. But yes, DLC gets added in multiple ways. Let's see here. Other questions I can get to. Am I watching the Eagles tomorrow night? How dare you, sir? Probably. Only because I'm a curse on my team, though. I can't watch it. I'm not allowed. Let's see here. Other question I can actually get to. Is it true the iiRcade is getting light? Yeah, of course it is. We've actually shown off light guns and people tested them in person. They've tried it out already. Yeah, people in the community have had their hands on light guns on iiRcade Golds already. Yes. So, but again, it's an open accessories program, right? So we're lucky enough to be able to work with the open source Cinnamon drivers for Android because we're an Android-based OS. So we've been able to do kind of that stuff too. We don't plan on releasing those with the system itself too. You will have to get them on your own. We just bring the compatibility to the system to make it as easy as possible for you to plug and play with the games that we have. Yep. That goes for spinners, trackballs, especially from GRS, as well as potentially other things, right? So there's other controllers. I know that steering wheels and flight sticks and yokes and things exist. I'm very well aware of these things. Wouldn't that be fun? All right. I guess that's technically a question. I'll do one more other question too. So sort of a thing. Let's see here. Let me see here. Other questions I can answer. Can't answer that. Can't answer that. Can't answer questions about games or features that aren't readily available right now that we haven't talked about or announced. I like that I literally just touched on this. That's okay. All right. I think we're good. That's all I can talk about today. Did I miss any major questions here? It's always fun when I read through the chat and there are questions I missed. They just don't populate sometimes. One day there will be a perfect software for streaming. One day. Let's see here. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just going through my chat. I know it's fun when I just sit silent and just stare. This is why co-hosts help too, right? It's always fun to have a co-host, somebody you can talk to. Maybe I'll just start bringing on community members again soon. It'll be fun. Who knows? Who decides? Take Papa Brad's question here. Who decides if a game has online iiRcade or the dev? It all depends. Typically the developer, right? However, for like retro arcade games, we develop those in-house ourselves in a sense, right? So the original game we take, we make it fit our system and we work on that ourselves in-house. So those games are put online by us on our own servers, yes. For more modern games, for Android especially, that's up to the developer wholly outright right now. So it's up to them to do it for online. So that's not my choice. And I will never force a developer to do anything, right? So if it comes to the choice of having a game on the system with online or not having it at all, we usually pick the latter, right? Or pick the former, right? So, right? Wait, terrible way to say that. Yes, we would rather have that game, if it's a good game especially, right? We'd rather have that game out as is without online than not have that game at all, and stifle it because there's no online, right? So, but yeah, it all depends. It all depends. So as things like pricing for games and stuff, right? That's up to the developers. We don't own these games. We license these games, right? So it is up to the developers. While we do work closely with them to decide on pricing, it's technically speaking, they have the final say. So it is up to them for pricing on games and things like that as well. So, yep. So again, keep in mind that we license these games, even though we do not, technically speaking, we sort of create games at times too. However, we do license these games, these titles. So it is ultimately up to the licensor who we get it from, to do the work, or not do the work, but decide, make those final decisions, right? So just because it's technically their game, it's not ours. Any news on hockey games? No. Stay tuned on hockey. I'll announce hockey when I'm ready to announce hockey. You see here, which version of Night Slashers? I always get questions right at the end. Which version of Night Slashers do we have on the iiRcade? I know certain versions of the game, you can change the violence to hard or soft through the settings. Anyway, can we get access to that? Yeah, so access to things like dip switches we've talked about before, right? It's nothing that is currently available on system. We do the dip switches on the back end ourselves, and typically speaking, we tend to go higher rather than lower because it's more fun to have the challenge, in my opinion. I'd rather that. It depends. Games like, trying to think, Rastin Saga, Warrior Blade, Rastin Saga Episode 3. Oh, there we go. Mouthful. That game went a little bit lower on the dip switch settings. Maybe we'll switch it up one day. But yeah, having access to those kind of things, or like Rage of the Dragon say, right? The dip switch is up like all the way. So it's a really hard game, that fighter. But yeah, so maybe one day we'll give access to that kind of stuff too. It's just not currently built into our system for a few different reasons. But yeah, mostly it's just it's a time sink to get that going. And there's other things currently on our docket that are much more important at the moment. So doesn't mean it's never going to happen. Of course, that's something that we'd love to have on the system too. Yeah. The more options I can give you, the better. It's how we've always been since the start. Just means it takes time. Software development is not easy. It's never easy. Just because you think something is easy does not mean that it is. Unfortunately, I wish it was that way. Plus, my life would be so much easier, let me tell you. The American version censored. That's why you asked. Yeah, so we do have the... sorry, I should get back to Night Slashers, right? So Night Slashers, we do have the arcade version of Night Slashers specifically. And then I believe we do have the US version is what's playing right now. I can take a look and get back to you on that. Yeah. I don't have an answer for you offhand right now too. I believe there is some censoring with the blood in our version currently. Doesn't mean it will always be that way, but I believe that's currently what's on the system for Night Slashers. Yep. Night Slashers as well, keep in mind, is one of the games announced for the 4-player online right out the gates, as well as Ninja Kids. So Night Slashers is a 3-player game, right? So that is one of the games that when 4-player online is released, will be a day one. Night Slashers will be a 3-player online experience. Yep. Just in case people are asking about that. But yeah, we tend to lean more towards the mature side of things in those instances. However, that's not always the case, and it's not always our choice too. A lot of times it is the developer, so whoever owns the game, right? So for Night Slashers, it is... Ooh, Date East? Date East sounds right. So it's ultimately up to them for the version. Sometimes they give us choices. They say, hey, which version would you guys like? And that's the version we go with. Sometimes we get told what version we're allowed to use, right? In some instances, it's not the US version even, it's the Japanese version, right? So again, that's the license that we pay for or the license that we acquire through these companies. So yeah, always fun. Licensing is always a tricky and fun thing. So it's always more interesting than you think it is. There used to be a dedicated email address to bring up online for requests. What it is, I don't remember. Let me get back to you on that. It's been a while. But again, a lot of times we see a lot of these games, but don't let me deter you from always posting games that you might want on the system. Yeah. Again, there's never really a game that we don't necessarily want to not add. So, will you get it? Not always, clearly, but doesn't mean that we're not working on it on the back end either. Oh, everything about polling essentially on the show, right? That's what this question is. Yes, all the time. However, I don't need to take polls too often because I watch everybody all the time and they kind of do polling for me in fairness. So One day, though. Sometimes we will do polls. Depends on if I have a reason to do the poll. So, but again, a lot of times we watch within the home arcade space, a lot of polls taking place anyway. And we see a lot of the same recurring themes or comments and stuff, right? So when we see that kind of stuff, you can kind of pick and analyze from that data. So I'm a big data guy. Goodness me, wouldn't I love to show you the data sometimes? Let's see here. Needs, okay. Can't go the bloody green. Let's see here. One more question. Let's see. You should always feel like you're being watched by me. That's me. I'm basically a weird Santa Claus, right? So I do see you always, all the time. I see everything. You know if you've been good or bad, or neutral, or gray area, for the most part. Let's see here. P-Dubs, you'll have to watch the replay for light gun info. There's not too much info for you, but it's there. We are on the final steps of light gun. So yes, the final step. One more to go. And it's called testing. It's a lot of testing. It's a lot of testing to get these things out to you guys. The amount of testing that we do on not just games, but software itself too is very time consuming, right? So system updates go out. They don't just go out, right? That's weeks, if not months worth of testing time that goes into these things. And for good reason. So I have to make sure that we don't break your system all the time. Inevitably, software has issues no matter what. So we just work through getting as little as possible and making sure that nothing's super apparent and we didn't miss anything. Final step on light guns. Yes, that's right. All right. With that, I think we'll call it a show. Yeah, because we can't talk about games. We can't talk about, as always. But yes, stay tuned for more news probably next week. I don't know if I'll return next week live or not, but likely. We'll see. And with that, probably some exciting news the next time that you see my ugly mug. So stay tuned on that one too. I know you guys want light guns. I know you want the 4-player online. I know you want a new UI. I know you want global leaderboards on the internet. I know that you want the store on the cabinet. I know that you want, well, let's see here, global lobbies, more robust friends features for online, better online play. Yes, these are all features that, we take into account. Don't you worry on that one too. More features on the store, easier things to do on the store, right? Things removed, things added all the time. Flight sticks, steering wheels. What else you want from me? I don't know. Everything, right? I know. You want the world and more. I know how it goes. So we're getting there. Don't you worry. So stay tuned on that. We do have more announcements coming up this year, of course. Things you haven't seen. It's early. It's Q1. It's January. New games that you haven't seen yet. Unannounced titles, along with unannounced features for the system, right? So there you go. Stay tuned on all that in the coming weeks and months. It's going to be a fun year. I'm excited. 2023 is a good year. It's a good year. Going into year 3, we've been around for 2 years now since official launch, right? Which is great. It's fun. Sophomore year's over. It's moving to junior. Let's find out. Let me find my videos and things to play you out with before I just keep rambling on like a madman, as I always do. Let's play you out again with Wizard of Walls, of course. So check it out, Wizard of Walls, both single player and co-op, as well as versus co-op. If you want to take off that box, you can do that. Compete on the high scoreboards. There are separate high scoreboards for both single player as well as co-op modes, right? So keep that in mind. There are 2 separate boards for those. So go ahead and find those in-game in Wizard of Walls, $9.99 on the store today. It's released right up there at the front in the recently added section of the game store, right at the top. So there you go. And with that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around. And I will see you all soon. All right. Have a good weekend. Game on.